Hello, everybody. I am Michael MANRING, a Mark Bass endorser and devotee. I've always loved the sound of the bass. Ever since I was a little kid, I can remember hearing the bass in different kinds of music and just really loving it and wanting to play the instrument. But in those days, there was very little information available about music. So I had no idea what instrument it was that I was hearing and enjoying so much. But right around the time I was 9 or 10, so 1969, 1970, things started to change a bit, and you started to be able to get more information about music. Woodstock was a big deal for me and my friends in the neighborhood. I wasn't allowed to go see the movie because it was rated R, but I had the record and I had a book about Woodstock, and so through that I learned, how all this music was working and who was playing what, and little by little figured out, that's the bass guitar that's so capturing my imagination. And I begged my parents to let me buy one, and they were not enthusiastic about it. My dad was in the military, and so the idea of having a long-haired hippie rock musician in the family didn't go over that well. But I had a friend who had a bass that I used to borrow and play, and I was very persistent, and eventually my parents did allow me to get a bass. And right about the time, I guess I was 10 years old or so, I got my own bass, and I was gone after that. Ever since, that was it for me. My first bass amp was a Haynes Bass King 2. I remember it really well. I remember that amp better than I remember my first bass, actually, which is kind of strange. But yeah, it was a Haynes Bass King 2. And it was kind of an early solid state amp. Most of the amps in those days were still tube. And it was only about 50 watts, so I always had to hit it pretty hard if I was playing with a drummer. And it did not break up very well. It did not sound very good when it was distorting. So it was a bit of a challenge playing through that amp. But that was my first amp, the Haynes Bass King 2. I've been very lucky in my career in that I've been able to do all kinds of different things. I've had the chance to do some very successful things. I've had a number of gold records that I've played on. I've played at Carnegie Hall. I've played in some really big places. I've been to the Grammy Awards. But honestly, the thing that most thrills me in music is playing in a small room with a small group of people who are just really listening, and being able to just kind of go on a journey and just explore. It's often best in a room without a PA, because this gear is really good, and then I know that what everyone's hearing is what I'm hearing, and we're all there's a sense of everybody kind of going on this journey together, even though I'm the one playing. And that's really it for me. For me, that's the best. I've also been lucky in that I've been able to play with an enormous number of artists. I can't remember how many records I've played on of so many different artists, but it's hundreds and hundreds of different projects I've been involved with, and I learned so much from each one. I feel so appreciative that people keep asking me to work with them on stuff. But I guess a couple stand out as being very powerful for me. I studied with Jaco Pastorius when I was 22, about then, in New York City. And that was very powerful for me because he was my hero. He was my absolute idol when I was that age. And it was good to get to know him and to kind of understand how his mind worked and how his musicality worked. I started playing with a guy named Michael Hedges in, I think it was 1979. And I played with Michael until he died in 1997. And that was a really good collaboration, mostly just because we really saw eye to eye in a lot of things in music, and really just got to explore a lot of different places in music together. And we had a really close personal friendship too. That was nice because we kind of went through a lot together musically and kind of in the music business. Other people, I've played for many years with an amazing singer-songwriter named John Gorka, who writes really simple music, but just so deep. And that's been really good for me. I came up as a jazz player, as a fusion dude, playing as many notes as possible and as complicated chords as possible in as complicated time signatures as possible. And so it's been really good for me to have the chance to play with a few people who are able to say so much with so little. And John Gorka is one of those. I really have learned a lot from him. Got to play in a wonderful band called Attention Deficit with Tim Alexander, who plays in Primus, and Alex Skolnick, who plays in Testament. That was a lot of fun. We did 2 records with that band. Henry Kaiser, a wonderful avant-garde guitar player, done so many amazing projects with him, with Wadada Leo Smith, and all kinds of amazing people. So, I just feel really blessed to have been able to play with lots of different people in lots of different situations. I first heard about Mark bass in Pescara, Italy, in the early 2000s. It might have been the year 2000. Yeah, I used to go pretty much every year. I would play in Pescara, and I have a very good friend there, also Mark bass endorser, named Maurizio Roli. And I remember him this very specifically. He said, "You have to check out this new amplifier." And it may have even still been Parsec at that point. I don't remember if it was Mark bass or if it was still Parsec. But I remember we spent about an hour just kind of geeking out on this amazing amplifier and just saying, yeah, this is the future of bass amplification. This is really what it's going to be. And so over the years, as I would come back to Italy, I'd get to try more and more Mark bass stuff. And then I would see it all over the world in the various places I was traveling, and it just got better and better. And finally I just said, yep, this is for me. Sign me up. This is the gear for me. And it has been ever since. For me, it's the best bass amplification gear there is. I've used a whole lot of different Mark bass gear over the years. I own several Mark bass products, and if I can't take my own, then I'll rent other Mark bass gear, and it's all amazing. I started out with a little Mark II, which was just, such a great workhorse of an amplifier. I loved the Momark, that system that they had going for a while. That was just amazing. But these days, I use the amazing bass multi-amp, incredible amp with effects built in, just has amazing possibilities. This is the 121H cabinet that I just love the sound of. Very, very full range, but also very, very pure sounding. Often with a lot of audio gear that sounds really high fidelity, it feels a little sterile. And this stuff doesn't feel that way. It's very high fidelity, but it still feels like it's warm. It's a little hard to describe, but that's what I love about it. And also lately, I've been using the amazing Ergo system, and this is incredible. It's stereo, so it's really great for the solo bass music I do. It's also really good for doing experimental music, ambient music. It's just an amazing system, incredibly portable, incredibly high fidelity, and just an amazing rich sound. It really fills up a room. I also use the Mark Vintage Pre, which is an amazing new unit that's come out. It's really good for recording. It really helps warm up the sound, and so all these tools are just so powerful, and I really love all of them. The interesting thing about working with MarkBase is it's really different from working with a lot of other companies. I've worked with many music companies over the years and enjoyed it. But MarkBase is, it's a real community. And the really striking thing about MarkBase is I think more than any other company, they really care about music. You really get the sense that it's music first, more than marketing or anything else. Those things are obviously important, but I just love working with this company because you really get the sense that it's all about the music, and that's a rare and special thing.